This is your gaming weekly news. The CMA in the UK that blocked the Activision Blizzard merger in 2022 and 2023 has recently spoke out, changing their mind about how they handled the case with Microsoft and Xbox. They said, quote, "We would not necessarily block Microsoft ABK again." CMA CEO Sarah Cardell says Microsoft ABK is, quote, "the kind of case they would want to think very carefully about," and she can't say definitely whether or not they would block something like that again. The CMA CEO also said, with a view to a hypothetical future case like Microsoft ABK, that they don't always need to have a seat at the table when there's a major global deal. Instead, they'll try a more tailored, proportionate approach. Anyone not familiar with Xbox's business plan back in 2022, they plan to merge Activision, Blizzard, and King to the Xbox and Microsoft gaming platform. And they were met with regulatory friction all the way through the process with the CMA in the UK, especially with the Competitions, Markets and Authority Group in the UK, with PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan at the time flying out to the UK to try and block that merger, saying that it would lessen competition with PlayStation versus Xbox. And with Xbox owning a massive conglomerate of publishers, this was widely reported, especially by PlayStation in their fight against the merger, that Xbox would have a monopoly over gaming. But what would have happened if the CMA would have stayed and let this deal go through without having a seat at the table? This means that the Xbox Activision deal would have closed sometime in mid-2022 instead of late 2023. And if you look at the trajectory of where Xbox was at the time, at the very beginning of the generation of their console, they had a really tough year in 2022 while they were in that merger and regulatory fight. Remember, in 2022, Xbox delayed Redfall and Starfield, meaning that the only first-party offerings they had on their platform as far as exclusivity was Pentiment and Grounded. What ended up happening is Xbox won the merger at the end of 2023. Now, competition has been completely removed for Xbox in the console space. In fact, I would argue that the Activision and Blizzard merger is the dominant reason that why Xbox right now is fully multi-platform. If Xbox's merger had been blocked, or if they've decided to cancel the merger with Activision and Blizzard, that would have freed up $80 million that now Microsoft and Xbox have to make up for. In fact, one of the arguments that Phil Spencer made to regulators back 2 years ago was that PlayStation uses the 30% they make from selling other people's games to use that money to leverage and suffocate the business of Xbox on their console platform. Phil spoke to Xbox Era in an interview about a week ago, and he had this to say about that 70-30% split.
I would love to make all of the money for all of the games that we ship, right? Like, obviously, we make more on our own platform. It's one of the reasons that investing in our own platform is important. But there are people, whether it's their library is on a PlayStation or a Nintendo, whether it's they like the controller better, they just like the games that are there. And I don't want to then look at that and say, well, there's no way that we should be able to build a business there, find fans of our franchises there. I'm not trying to move them all over to Xbox. Like, anymore, we're all so invested in where our games are. Let's just allow more people to play. And yes, the 70% that we make on games on other platforms is helpful to us being able to build great portfolios like we showed at Dev Direct. And I hope this will continue to show through the rest of the year.
So we have to wonder what would have happened if Xbox had canceled the Activision and Blizzard deal. Where would they be right now? Would they have made it through a very long dry spell in 2022 and part of 2023? Would they have still remained a console exclusive platform with the games they have coming out now with Indiana Jones, Call of Duty, Doom: The Dark Ages, Avowed, South of Midnight, and so many more, with a consistent roadmap of games? Would Xbox be facing the reality that they have to sell their games on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch? This problem for Xbox as just a console company has been a long time coming. We talked about for a long time that Xbox has a four-pronged approach. They can get customers on cloud, console, PC, and Game Pass. And a combination of those things has actually led to a great revenue stream for Xbox, and they're finally seeing some long-term growth. Phil Spencer also spoke to Xbox Era in this interview specifically about their multi-platform approach and having game logos, having the PS5 and Nintendo Switch logo at the end of their trailers, even in their own showcase. Here's what he had to say.
I just want to be transparent with people. If we're shipping on Nintendo Switch, we're going to put that. If we're shipping on PlayStation, if we're on Steam, like people should know when the storefronts where they can get our games. But I want people to be able to experience our Xbox kind of community and our games and everything we have to offer on every screen we can, while also supporting our native platform from hardware to the platform and services that we have. And that's going to be our approach. And I know it's not what everybody else is doing. But I just believe games should be the thing that's at the forefront. Maybe it's because of how I've grown up in this industry. I came building games. But I think the games are the things that I see growing in their strength in our what we're doing. Yeah. And it's because more people can play. So yeah, I'm just trying to be open and transparent with people.
As an Xbox content creator and running a channel for some 7 or 8 years talking about consoles, the plastic, the hardware platform, the games, the studios, I've shifted along with the industry that it really is about the games and where they are supposed to thrive. And right now in the current modern games industry, especially in the Western AAA games market, it's really, really tough to have your games not only just survive, but to thrive and to grow and have franchises continue on. And this is where we're seeing PlayStation sort of shift and slowly adapt their business model as well, where they can get their games and their franchises to grow by bringing them to PC much later. I suspect that window will shorten more and more as we go along. Xbox recently had a big reveal of AI in the industry and AI for gaming and for the Microsoft and Xbox platform to use an AI development tool to create and speed up the process of gaming. And this did not land very well with fans at all. In fact, this is the last thing that people want to hear about, having computers or AI generate creativity and things that make games so wonderful. And worst of all, losing people that work on games in favor of using GPU farms and an AI model to make that all happen. And Xbox showed this off in the worst way possible with really small, low quality GIFs of Bleeding Edge, one of Xbox's major failures from last generation, showing a AI modeler create gaming and gaming situations on the fly. And they called this Muse. Microsoft says that this would radically change how we preserve and experience classic games in the future, and that the algorithm could be used to make older games compatible with any device. So Xbox seems to have a two-prong approach here that could use preservation or remaster games using an AI model, or to use AI to create gaming situations on the fly or create mechanics for gameplay. AI researcher Dr. Michael Cook was not happy with Xbox's Muse and had a ton of criticism, saying the AI model is not generating gameplay or creating its own original ideas. In short, Muse was fed 7 years of video game footage of people playing a singular game, in this case Bleeding Edge, to see if it could then further generate gameplay footage of it. They made a tool that lets game developers edit a game level using existing game concepts, like adding in a jump pad to a place where there wasn't one before. Then they gave this new level to their model and asked it to show what it thought the footage of the player playing from this new position would look like. In other words, the idea of Muse could be used as a shortcut tool for predicting and visualizing how gameplay might adapt to a particular input from a developer, and crucially, that developer would still be a human being. But this isn't how Microsoft or Xbox are going to approach using Muse or AI. The big concern or scare is that Xbox will find ways to bring efficiency and quicker development for their games, which is sorely needed in the industry, but also could mean hundreds of layoffs of people actually working and creating and building games that we love. In fact, Matt Booty, the head of Xbox Studios, spoke about AI about 3 or 4 years ago, saying that they would use it to speed up development and use bug and level testing on the fly, and then come in the morning the next day and have the AI fully complete with a test and all of the results ready for the actual developers to fix. This isn't the reality as we look into the future, where AI is going to take over so many jobs and do a lot of the work. But Xbox needs to use Muse AI to do remedial tasks like programming and other bug fixes, and even if it's programming or other things that don't use human creativity, because people will be able to see this from a mile away, and it's definitely not what gamers want. Phil Spencer says, you can imagine a world where, from gameplay data and video, a model could learn old games and really make them portable to any platform where these models could run. But really, the problem of game preservation is not how the game is brought forward or who can port it or what platforms it could play on, especially older games which could play on nearly anything. the biggest hurdle for game preservation is licensing. And no amount of AI could fix licensing or revive my favorite game like Dirt 2. Either way, we need something much better than some grainy, small, low-quality GIFs of 2020's bleeding edge to see what Muse AI is going to do for us as a gamer and the consumer, but right now it looks like it only stands to benefit Microsoft, their bottom end, and how many people are working in game studios. Bethesda Softworks finally broke the silence on the long-awaited and most anticipated Elder Scrolls 6 game, and not the way you expected. They set up a Make-A-Wish charity to bring someone into the game as an NPC for a quest. But that's not all. There are rumors that came out a few weeks ago, a former dev that worked at Bethesda Softworks that spilled all kinds of information about gameplay details and mechanics set for the new Elder Scrolls 6, and maybe an insight into when we'll see Elder Scrolls 6 revealed and when it'll actually release. I did a full entire video on this that I put out just a couple of days ago. Check that out here on the channel. But there are some new additions like better improved combat, playable skill-based mechanics, and a shipbuilding system, much like we saw in Starfield, but for a ship or wooden ship vessel on the high seas. The game is rumored to be set near Hammerfell with wide open seas and ship combat, much like we see in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. But building your own ship like we did in Starfield, but for a big wooden pirate's vessel, is something that's hard to believe, but kind of sounds like something in line with the way Bethesda evolves their games as they go along. Every game that comes out from Bethesda has a little bit of that DNA that they brought forward from the last. Maybe I'm in the minority on this one, but I'd be super excited to go out in the high seas and do that Assassin's Creed style ship battles in an Elder Scrolls game. I'm really looking forward to that. It's important to note, as I covered in that video about Elder Scrolls 6, that Oblivion is highly rumored to be announced sometime around the June showcase and released not long after that. And if that's true, I think it would be the perfect opportunity to say, here's Oblivion, it's fully remastered from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5, and here is a sneak peek at Elder Scrolls 6. Phil Spencer said in that ABK trial that we talked about earlier that they had planned to bring Elder Scrolls 6 out sometime in 2026 or afterwards. He also said that Elder Scrolls is one of their decade-long development games. With it being announced in 2018, that means the game could come out as late as 2028. But rumors are pointing to somewhere closer to 2026 or 2027. But I guess we'll have to wait to see at the June showcase for 2025. And that's your gaming weekly news. This is Colteastwood. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thanks to everybody who sticks around to check out the gaming weekly news. I really appreciate your support. I get a lot of feedback from you all, and I really appreciate that. If you ended up enjoying this video, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell to be notified of new weekly content. If you want to further support what we're doing here on the Colteastwood channel to keep the lights on and all that stuff, you can do that by hitting the join button below. Joining the channel membership gets you early access, get you entered into monthly merch giveaways like this XNC shirt, anything of your choosing if you win. Also check out the Patreon. I have several tiers there, even a super class. You want to learn how to do production, graphic design, live streaming, all that stuff. Check that out. The description has that as well. Check us out on XNC Podcast. Mag and I will be there live every Monday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, to talk about the gaming news, cover all the rumors and all that. Thank you so much for checking that out. What did you think was the most interesting thing in this weekly gaming news segment? I was not interested in the AI. I'm not a big fan of that stuff, although, you know what? We have to admit, we're using it in our everyday lives in some form. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And while you're there, as I always say, please be nice.